Hey there, Darin Garman here, and we're going to talk about what in the hell is going on. That's correct, what's going on. And I wanted to record this and get this message out to many of you, mainly because of timing. Timing, of course, is important in a lot of things, but right now, especially in the world of multifamily, there's a lot of things going on. And what I want to do is explain to you what's happening, give you kind of a push cart version of what's going on out in the marketplace so you can make some not only better informed decisions, but also in terms of your own personal investment expectations. Because it is a market like we have not seen before. I've been in this business now going on past 30 years. And in the last 30 years, that's a long time, I've not seen the market the way that it is right now. So let's go ahead and let's start talking about some generalities first. And then I'm going to jump into some specifics with you, especially in terms of expectations with you and the money that you're looking to invest or the money that you've already got invested. Okay? So let's go ahead and let's start with the statement that I just made. We have not seen a market like, I've not seen a market like this before. And what do I mean by this? Not seen market like this. I'm talking in terms of this word, demand. And by demand, I'm talking investor demand. All right, it's investor demand. Okay, investor demand. I have not seen a market like this before. Okay, and here's what I mean. It is just like right now in many parts of the country, what I call the SFH market. Okay, the SFH market is the single family home market. Okay, the single family home market. So what's going on right now with single-family homes in many parts of the country, even here in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, of all places? What's going on? Well, just in case you didn't know, or you're just not tuned into the news or current events, houses are selling fast. They're selling within hours. And at the end of the day, the majority of homes that are on the market are not only selling for what the asking price is, but the majority of homes are selling for more than asking price. Okay? It is an unbelievable seller's market right now. You have unbelievable competition for single-family homes right now. Multiple offers. Those multiple offers have interesting clauses, like escalation clauses. So, for example, many of these offers basically say, hey, we'll pay $5,000 more than the highest offer you get. Just keep that in mind. Every time you get a higher offer, we'll pay $5,000 more. I talked with a couple of friends and partners of mine and acquaintances. So, for example, a couple of weeks ago, I talked with a gentleman. He's telling me that he sold his house for $30,000 more than the asking price. And I can tell you story after story after story about either people selling their houses for $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, $30,000, or even hundred thousands of dollars or more than their asking price, and they're selling like that. And I can tell you from a buyer's standpoint what buyers have to do in order to be able to buy these houses. So, what does the single-family home market have to do with multifamily? Nothing, except the multifamily market is operating right now in the exact same way. Okay, I'm going to say it again. The multifamily home market, the multifamily property market right now is operating in the exact same way as the single-family home market is. Now, I'm recording this in June of 2021. Now, it'll be interesting if we go back, let's just say a year from now, and watch this recording, how things have gone. It'll be interesting to see, really, how far we've come. But here's the deal with multifamily right now. Okay? Here's the deal. For every one property in either the following ranges, 4 to 12 units, or 72 units to 600 units. Okay? So if you own a 4 or a 12 unit property, or you have a 72 unit to a 600 unit property, for every one of these properties, you have a minimum of 12 qualified buyers submitting offers on the property. I'm going to say that again. If you own a 4 to a 12 unit property, or a 72 unit to a 600 unit property, for every one of those properties, one that's on the market, they're getting at least 12 offers on these properties at the same time, all of them from qualified buyers. All of them. So think about that for a second. What does that do to pricing? If I've got one property to sell, and I've got all this competition in order for investors to buy, what happens to the price? The pricing goes up. Okay? The pricing goes up. And I'll tell you about the trend that you see now going on, which I have some opinions on that I'll give you. But I just want to lock this into your thinking right now. Okay? Lock this into your thinking. For every one property, you got 12 people ready to buy it, money, capital, ready to go. By the way, appraisal contingency? No, we don't need that. By the way, financing contingency? No, we don't need that. As a matter of fact, I just got done negotiating on a property. This is a 172 unit property, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about it here in just a second. I was asked, I've never been asked this question before, how many of the apartments do you plan on inspecting prior to releasing your contingencies? Well, I'm like, at least all of them, right? I don't want any surprises. There are even offers being made on multi-hundred unit apartment communities where they will not, they're saying in the purchase agreement, hey, if you accept our offer, we won't inspect all of them. We'll just inspect maybe half of them, or maybe a quarter of them, or in some cases maybe, we kind of like, we've seen 3 or 4, we'll just go with that. Think about this for a second. Let that sink in. So the last project I made an offer on for our company made an offer on, and our investors, 172 unit property. I was asked, how many of these units do you really want to look at before you close? Well, at least 75% of them, I would think, and probably all. Wouldn't you? I mean, you're invested millions of dollars. Don't you want to see the whole property? But again, there are people, because it's so competitive, are saying, we don't need to see it. Let's just close. More on that here in just a second. But this is a trend, folks. This is the trend. So, many of you have been waiting for me to talk to you and communicate with you about the next property, right? We are going to invest in the next property. Whether you're in the Heartland Investment Partners group, whether you're in Continental Terrace, whether you're in Wildwood, whether you're in Forest Ridge, whether you're in all those properties, all those. A lot of you are basically saying, hey, Darin, come on, I'm ready to go here. Well, what's going on? I'm ready to get into the next property, right? You're ready to go. And I keep telling you, what do I keep telling you? Yeah, I'm working on this one. I'll know more on that one next week. I'm working on another one. And you know, I've always said the good properties, they come along when they're ready, not when we're ready. So I may have a property to talk to you about tomorrow, or it might be November. It could be. But it's not for lack of trying. So many of you are probably maybe just a little frustrated because I haven't been able to talk to you about some really good properties that we want to buy. Well, it's not for lack of trying. Let me give you an idea what's been going on here. This is behind the scenes. So, I recently took a shot at 172 units. I want to tell you about this deal. Here's what happens. This is just unbelievable to me, but this is where we're at with this market. So I was down, it was down to me and one more group in terms of the sellers deciding who it is that they want to work with to buy their property. Here's a real interesting thing that happens nowadays. One, if you get down to the last 5 in competing for this property that you want to buy, they have what they call a seller interview. Can you imagine being interviewed by the seller of the property you plan on buying? I mean, it's like a job interview. So they're like qualifying you. Well, do we want to work with you or not? I'm like blown away by this. So you got to go through an interview process, okay? And of course, they ask you all the questions like, are you qualified? Can you buy it? Do you have the money? Blah, blah, blah. They ask you all the things you think somebody would ask that's going to sell you property. But they're interviewing you. Blows me away. Okay, so I've gone through the interview process on this. And here's what happened. It came down between myself and another group. Well, if you're not the one they choose, they don't even tell you. You don't get a call. You don't get an email. You don't get anything that tells you, hey, the sellers have decided to work with the other group. Just wanted to let you know. They just let you out there. Don't even say a word to you. Okay, that tells you what kind of a seller's market it is when sellers and brokers do not even have the respect to contact you and basically say, hey, you know, we decided on the other group. Thank you for your time, effort, and energy, but they're not even contacting you. That's how crazy it is right now. So we just got done trying to get this 172 unit property. It came down between my company, my group, and another group. They chose the other group. I don't know why, of course. I have no idea because they don't call me to tell me that they didn't choose my group. I have no idea. Here's the other little interesting thing about this. I want you to listen to this. On this property, I had no financing contingency, no appraisal contingency, and I was willing to deposit a non-refundable $100,000 in order to move forward on this. Listen to what I just said. I was willing to deposit a non-refundable $100,000 in order to move forward on this. So, I offered them a fantastic price, more than what they were probably thinking they would ever get. No financing contingency, no appraisal contingency. All I want is 30 days to do my due diligence, walk through the units, make sure I've got a really good understanding of what's going on, because I've only seen 5 out of 172 units. What kind of decisions can I make on improvements, on what we can do with tenant mix, all that by looking at 5 units. Not much. So I've got a 30-day contingency. I'm willing to deposit $100,000 non-refundable, so if I change my mind for some reason, you keep the money. And then after the contingency period, I'll deposit another $100,000 or a $200,000 total non-refundable deposit in order to move forward on this. And we didn't get it. That's how competitive it is. But again, it's not for lack of trying, my friends. So those of you that have been wondering, God, Darin, come on, well, we want to invest in something. Missed out on this one. 10 days ago, missed out on a 196 unit property. 10 days ago. So this was 4 days ago. This is 10 days ago. Missed out on that. Right? Missed out on that. Okay? 7 days before that, Missed out on a 226 unit property. Missed out on that. Okay? So far, within the last less than 1 month, you've got almost 600 units here. Okay? That we have not bought. Why? Because we've been outbid. Bid on every single property. And just remember, I've already told you the kind of terms that we've been offering. So, 226 unit, okay? Then there was a 180 unit 2 months ago. We missed out on that. There was a 122 unit. We missed out on that. All right? So, you add these up. We've almost gone through 1,000 units that we have taken a shot at buying, and we were not successful in buying them. Okay? Now remember, before I even get to a point of even making any kind of offers to buy, they've got to go through a pretty rigorous process that I have before I even get to this point. So I'm not even going to tell you about this times 10 that I've looked at and considered and decided no. This is just within the last 4 to 5 months. Okay? And then the last one was a disappointing one. The end of last year was a 328 unit property we missed out on here in Cedar Rapids as well. That sold for more money than I ever would have thought a property would be able to sell for based on its age and location. Okay, so if you add all these up, we're 1,000 units that we missed out on. Not for lack of trying, but for the lack of what? Being outbid. Okay, here's what they do. Smart on the seller's part, it's a terrible way to buy real estate. I hate it. It's call for offers. So what they do is they offer these properties for sale, unpriced. They market them for 2 weeks. They have tours of the property for another 2 weeks or a week or so. Then they say, okay, everybody that's interested, submit your best offer. So you submit your best offer. Okay, you submit your best offer. Then they'll say, okay, out of the 10 offers we got, we're going to go with 5. You 5 now submit a better offer. Out of you 5, now you're down to 2. Now submit even a better offer. Now let me just push the pause button here for a second. This is not the way it goes for every single property. So if you want to buy a 20 unit property, you're not going through this process more than likely. If you want to buy a 12 unit, a 16 unit property, you're probably not going through this process. You probably got a price, it's a little bit more conventional for you. But if you're in that low range, like a 4 unit building, and you're in that high range, like a 200-300 unit property, this is what's going on. Again, the worst way to buy properties. Why in the hell would I want to compete with 10 other people to buy something? It's like a silent auction, right? So all I'm doing is I'm paying a hell of a lot more than I really want to just to own it, which is exactly what the sellers want because that's how they get the highest price. And the funny thing is, a lot of the brokers like to market what they call value add. Value add. Okay? By the way, value add in most cases now is complete bullshit because there's no more value add. Value add is basically, hey, you can buy it for X amount of dollars per unit, you can raise the rents a little bit, reduce the expenses, do a little bit some capital improvements. Now all that's done, now the property's worth a hell of a lot more. No, it's not, because you paid a shit ton of money for it than what you originally thought you would pay. So you can raise the rent all you want, but you're not going to get the kind of return and value that you thought you would get, but this is the last marketing arm they've got. is value add. And there's really not much in terms of value add unless you get fortunate in finding a property that actually really does have that. But I can tell you most that are marketed do not. So what's going on? Why are people paying all this money for this property? Because they're betting on the future. Okay? They're betting on the future. So you know I have talked until I'm blue in the face about how multifamily is going to be the go-to investment. I've been doing that for years. Okay, I've been telling you, look, renter nation, renters will keep renting, rents will continue to go up, multifamily housing is going to continue to be the go-to investment. I talked about for political reasons, social reasons, economic, I talked about all of that. Now you're seeing it come true, folks. Okay, now the institutions, the partnerships, the people that have billions of dollars, they're like, hey, that makes sense. We're buying. And they're buying, 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 buying. Okay, that's who's doing this. Now, remember, if you want to make a deal bad enough, you will. And I'll say it again. If you want to make a deal bad enough, you will. I am not Mr. Be able to buy it at least a 30% discount before we buy it. No. I will make an accurate assessment of what I believe and accurately predict what we can do based on our 20+ year track record of doing this and base my pricing on that. And I might even be a little bit more aggressive depending on where it's located, what kind of management structure we can put in place there, etc. So what I'm telling you is I am not a cheapskate when it comes to making offers on these. I'm pretty damn aggressive, okay? Pretty aggressive. And I'm getting outgunned every time, okay? So why am I getting outgunned? I just told you one reason, the demand. We talked about that. Right now, properties in Iowa are selling for less than a 5% cap rate. Okay, less than a 5% cap rate. Good multifamily properties, even okay multifamily properties, are selling in the 5 to less than 5% capitalization rates. For those of you that don't know what a cap rate is, this is basically what indicates the value of the property and the income stream the property produces. The lower this number, the greater the value. But also, the lower this number, the harder it is for the property to cash flow. So think about this. You're buying a property at less than a 5% cap rate. You're paying 30 to 40% more than what the property tax assessed value is. And what have insurance costs done over the last couple of years and where are they going? And where are utility costs going? And where is the cost to deal with residents in terms of political, economic, social? Everything is going up. So if I pay 40%, if I pay less than a 5% cap rate, my taxes are going to go up at least 20 to 25%, my property taxes. My insurance is going to go up at least 10%. My utilities are going to go up. They're not going to go down. That's all going to happen before I even own the property. Okay? So even though this is the case, you've got two types of investors. One, you've got the type of investor that thinks they're so damn smart and so damn good at what they can do, they'll be able to take care of all that, right? We'll be able to overcome that. We've got systems, we've got processes, we've got a way of doing business, we've got this, we've got that, you know. Well, that's not that big of a deal, okay? Or you've got other investors that are basically hoping. So they're putting their business plan together on paper. They're making all these spreadsheet projections on being able to increase rent, let's just say 20% a year. And I'm exaggerating, but I wouldn't doubt if some of them do. Well, we'll increase rent 11% this year, 13% the next year, on and on and on and on. So what a lot of these guys are doing is they are predicting they're going to be able to raise the income at a faster pace than the expenses. And I'm here to tell you that will not be the case. Sure, there's going to be some properties where you can do that. We've been able to do it. Okay, we've been able to do that on actually quite a few. But I can tell you overall, if you think you're going to pay 30% more than what the property assessed value is, because what do you think the tax assessor is going to do with the property tax assessed value the next year? It's going to go up. Is insurance going to go down or go up? It's going to go up. Utility. So if you think you're going to be able to raise rents at a faster pace than your expenses, what are you smoking? It's not going to happen. So here's what you're doing. You're either being way optimistic or you're paying mostly cash. And many investors are doing that. Because if you get financing with this, your margins are really, really thin. And even if you pay all cash at less than a 5% cap rate, your margins still aren't that great even at that point in time. Even at that point in time. Because what's going on now is pricing is now being based on, in large part, what you can borrow money for. Okay? So if I can borrow at 3%, I'll buy it at less than a 5% cap rate because 3% interest, 5% cap rate, I've got some room there, that's how I'm going to base my decision. So a lot of decisions now are being based on what can I borrow money at, interest only in some cases, lower interest rates versus what's my cap rate, and I'll live on the spread and I'll hope it all works out. Now that's being overly general, but that's pretty much what's going on. In other words, strategic thinking has left the building. It's gone. Strategic thinking has left the building. And it's all now about finding a home for cash, borrowing at a low interest rate, and that's how you're making your decisions. Again, I'm being overly general. I might be exaggerating a little bit, but I'm not exaggerating much because strategy has gone out the building. Now, there may be cases where we might pay a hell of a lot more for a property that's right next door to one that we own. I might overpay for that. I might overpay for another property that has certain strategic things about it that based on the surface it might not make a lot of financial sense, but I know based on where it's located, whether it's by another one of our properties, whether I've got a management system that works good for that, sure, I might be able to pay a little bit more than what I typically would. And again, remember, I'm not cheap. Okay? I'm not cheap. So what does this mean? What's this mean? Well, a few things. Okay? First of all, the supply is going to remain tight. The supply will remain tight as long as the competition remains for 12 buyers wanting to buy that one property. They're all qualified, they've all got the capital, they're all ready to go. As long as that's the case, the supply is still going to be tight. It's probably going to be tight for at least the next year. So, those of you that are with me, those of you that are waiting for your next investment with me, you're going to have to wait longer than what you would like because the supply is going to continue to be tight. Because I will not pay that much more than what is absolutely necessary just to buy the deal. Right? I've got to think of the future. My investment future, your investment future. It does none of us any good to just get a transaction done for the sake of getting a frickin' transaction done. Okay? So, supply is going to be tight. Right? I will be continuing to work behind the scenes as I've described before. I do a lot of work behind the scenes. I won't go into it now, but a lot. A lot. And so, tight supply, still a lot of work to be done behind the scenes. The other thing is, it's going to take time, but you need to be ready. Because it's only a matter of time before we do get that property that's going to make great sense. And all this could mean, by the way, that yeah, I was a little bit grouchy about missing out on, let me see, here they go. You know, we missed out on 172 units, we missed out on this, we missed out on this, we missed out on all these, right? But that might mean we may have a really nice 200 unit come up tomorrow that we're frickin' happy we missed out on all those other ones because now we got a shot at this one. This one's a hell of a lot better than any of those ever would have been. There's a really good chance that something like that is going to come up. But you've got to be patient. By the way, I don't like any of this. I'm not a patient guy. But when it comes to this, I'm not basing what we're going to pay based on low interest rates. I'm not basing what we're going to pay based on some projected on paper business plan. That business plans on paper never fail. They never do. And I'm not going to buy just to buy or get a transaction done just because I want to get one done bad enough. Okay? And if you want to look at track record, some of the properties that we own now are a great track record and a testament to our process and how we do this, okay, what our values are on those properties, how they're operating, etc., based on our processes, okay? And we're not going to be making radical changes just because everybody thinks they want to own multifamily property right now. We're not making those changes. So, you're going to have supply, tight supply. There's going to be still a lot of work. We're going to continue to do behind the scenes. You got to be ready. Keep your powder dry. Be ready to invest. Because when I get a hold of you and I say, hey, let's go. It's go time. You got to be ready to go. You've got to be ready to go. Because remember, I am making decisions on what we were going to be paying based on economic experience as an owner for 30 years. Okay? I know what's going to happen in terms of trends, cycles, the tight supply. I can't wait to be on the sidelines with millions of dollars ready to buy the properties that they're buying for less than a 5% cap rate in Iowa, hoping it's all going to work out. Hoping the planets align and hoping they're going to have a really good payoff on their properties. I can't wait for those deals to come up because they will. Because they will. Because after someone buys a property, you've got a few months of, oh man, we've got this property, this feels great, we've invested in a great deal, and everything's good, and then all of a sudden, maybe things don't go as planned, things don't go as scheduled, things come up, you've got things that come out of nowhere. Welcome to life as a multifamily apartment, multifamily property owner. Okay, so what should you do right now? What should you do? First thing you should do is remain patient. Okay, remain patient and trust the process. Now what do I mean by that? Obviously patience is an easy one to figure out. You want to remain patient. By trusting the process, that means you trust in my process. Knowing that if you want to invest with me and you're going to be involved in the next project with me, knowing that we're eventually going to get something. It's eventually going to happen. It's just a matter of time. We're going to keep working, another brick today, another brick tomorrow, another brick. We're going to keep going. And you've got to trust the process. Or maybe you've got your own process. Maybe you're not going to do anything with me. Maybe you're doing something on your own and you've got a process. Trust your process. Don't get too concerned. Don't get too mentally blocked by what I don't have, what I haven't purchased yet, what I'm trying to buy. Don't do that. Don't let the outside noise, the outside activity, and the flurry of investment money going into these right now dissuade you from your process, dissuade you from trusting my process. Okay? Don't do that. Be patient. By the way, this is hard. This is really hard. I'm sure many of you got friends, family members, people you know. Oh yeah, well we just bought this property over here. Or this partnership just bought this property over there. Oh, we just took down 400 units in, so you hear about this. You see it. And you're like, God, am I missing out? Am I missing out? Am I missing out? No, you're not. One last thing I want to mention to you, just to be very careful of, by the way. Always remember, really good deals don't come along every day. Again, if it's that easy, everybody would be, right? So what you see now advertised a lot, whether you're on somebody's email list, whether you're getting some marketing information, they like to hit what they call a target IRR. IRR is just a fancy acronym for internal rate of return, or really IRR is what's the overall return. So in other words, if I invest $100,000 in this, we hold on to it for 10 years, what's my overall return? That's what an IRR is. Okay? Because it's so competitive and prices that are being paid are so high, now you've got to convince investors why they should invest in a property that's being bought at, let's just say, a record price per unit. Okay, why would I do that? Well, they use the target IRR. So they basically say, here's the overall return that we're targeting. Targeting. Well, look, can you get into the double-digit internal rates of return? Sure, we've got properties that do that. So this isn't so uncommon, but once you see this getting in the world of there's no frickin' way, please, red flags, lights flashing, okay? I'm getting emails now where they're saying targeted IRR 21%. Give me an effing break. There's no way that's going to happen. I know, I'm in this. You're not going to get a 20% return on a multifamily property that you're paying a record high price for. It's not going to happen. I don't care what the literature says. Okay? Just tap the brakes. Think. Logically, is that really doable? What are the reasons why that's doable? And there's always outliers. I know there's always some properties. I mean, we've got properties that are into the double-digit range, well into the double-digit range. But when you see this over and over and over again, when record high prices are being paid, you've got huge demand, tight supply. Keep that in mind. Okay? Just be logical in your thinking. All right? So, I wanted to make sure that you guys got a really good idea of what's going on out there. And you've probably, if you've been with me now for a while and really kind of keeping track of things, you know this is the case. You've seen this going on. You've seen opportunities come and go. But I'm telling you, what you're seeing right now is something that you've got to watch. You've got to like enjoy watching and kind of have fun seeing what's going on out there. And the other thing though is just be mindful and be careful. But mostly be patient. Be patient. Trust the process. Don't let the noise out there get in your way. Don't let all of those fancy email blasts, all those fancy marketing things that come across all those fancy mailings you get, don't let those take you off of your process, okay? We have to dig a lot deeper. We're doing that. You have to be a little bit more patient, and it will pay off. Last thing I'll say about this is this. Right now we're at a case where people are overpaying for properties. In some cases that'll work out, but in some cases it won't. Especially if they're financing a lot of it, and especially if they've got over-aggressive and over-optimistic business plans for those properties. So part of what I'm going to be discussing with you as we go through the rest of this year is being available, having capital available to take advantage of these once they come back on the market. You know, in a weird kind of way, it really is kind of a reflection of what you saw going on in the 70s. And what you saw going on in the 70s and into the early 80s was people overpaying for properties in just gigantic amounts, mainly because of not only being able to own real estate, but because the depreciation schedules were so good, you could get your down payment back within a year or two of investing in a property on tax write-offs. So think about it. You can invest 500 grand in a property and you get your 500 grand back in tax write-offs. So who cares what you pay for it, right? You're going to pay whatever. And what happened to a lot of those properties? Savings and loans went down, Resolution Trust Corporation was created, tax laws changed, and that resulted in that, and you had a ton of properties in foreclosure that were picked up for pennies, pennies, pennies. Am I saying that this is the case right now? No. Am I saying we're headed in that direction in some cases? I think so. We want to be on the sidelines, not only waiting for those things to happen and come up, but also we want to be a player for some of those properties to grab before that happens. Okay, so look, I'd be interested in your comments, questions on this, anything that you think is pertinent based on what I have been talking about here. We'd like to hear from you, get your comments and your questions, and see what you think. Okay? All right, we'll talk to you later. We'll see you. Bye-bye.